3 days before the wedding ceremony, Shen Jinglin actually snuck into my Su family's villa under cover of night and silently altered the marriage contract between him and me, replacing the groom's name with his uncle Shen Jinglin, who had been bedridden with illness for a long time. Outside the silk screen, his fair-weather friends were so shocked that the wine cups in their hands trembled. "You've gone mad. She is Chamberlain, Shen's only daughter. Su Qingyuan waited for you from her budding years until she turned 20. Everyone in Chang'an mocks her as an old maid who can't get married. If this gets exposed, the Shen family will fight you to the death." Shen Jinglin leaned against the vermilion corridor pillar, fanning himself leisurely with a casual tone. "It is just a bet I made with Ching Shu. If I lose, I have to do whatever he says once. Besides, it is just changing a marriage contract, isn't it? I've already ruined Su Qingyuan's marriage prospects 9 times. What is one more?" He glanced at the timid maidservant, Lu Qingshu, beside him, his eyes concealing indulgence. "Qingshu is an orphan girl I picked up from the mass grave mound. Now she is my personal maid. When she discovers the marriage contract is wrong, she'll definitely come crying and begging me to change it back, even if she muddles through the wedding ceremony in confusion. It won't matter. My uncle injured his leg in battle years ago and has long been unable to perform as a man. In the end, won't she still have to return to my side? By then, with her weakness in my grasp, she'll have no choice but to obey me obediently." There was a burst of mocking laughter all around. That laughter was as piercing as needles, making my chest tighten. I held the hangover soup I'd personally made, standing in the shadows, my fingertips ice cold until the warmth of the soup bowl dissipated completely. Only then did I turn and walk to the corner, pouring the entire bowl of soup onto the blue bricks. Water splashed up and fell back down, like my 7 years of misplaced youth finally ending clean and clear. The next day, Mother clutched that marriage contract that had been altered beyond recognition, so panicked her voice was trembling. "Qingyuan, what are we going to do?" "I'll go to the Shen residence right now and make them change the marriage contract back." But I raised my hand to stop her, the corners of my mouth curving into an extremely faint smile. "Mother, there is no need. Just do as it is written on this marriage contract." Mother froze, her eyes instantly reddening. "You child, you waited for him for 7 years from the age of Shisenwen Saoshu, and the engagement was set. You turned down how many marriage proposals from princes and nobles, all just to wait for Shen Jinglin." That was before. I interrupted her, my voice calm and flat. "These 7 years, I've waited long enough, and I've seen clearly enough." On the day I went to the Shen residence to finalize the wedding date, it happened that Shen Jinglin was taking Lu Qingshu boating on Kujiang Pool. I blocked the entrance, handing him the gold-embossed wedding invitation, but he casually swatted it away, and the invitation fell to the ground, stirring up some dust. "Su Qingyuan, stop bothering me." His tone was impatient. "I haven't settled the score with you for what happened that day. When you send over that South Sea pearl hairpin that Qingshu has her eye on, I'll consider forgiving you." I bent down to pick up the invitation card and patted off the dust, without explaining a single word. I just coldly watched him get on the carriage with Lu Qingshu and leave. The moment the carriage curtain lifted, I clearly saw Lu Qingshu turn back to glance at me, her eyes full of smug provocation. The wedding date was set for 3 days later, and all the wealthy families in Chang'an City received the wedding invitations. They clearly bore the names of Su Qingyuan and Shen Jinglin, yet only Shen Jinglin was still living in his own pipe dream. On the wedding day, red silk hung throughout the streets and alleys of the Su family and Shen residence, and the sound of Suona horns shook people's eardrums. I wore a bright red wedding dress embroidered with intertwining lotus patterns, a phoenix crown on my head, sitting quietly in the bridal sedan chair with a calm heart. But suddenly, a chaotic sound of horse hooves came from outside the sedan, immediately followed by Shen Jinglin's furious roar, "Move aside, all of you move aside. I'm the groom. Su Qingyuan, come out here." The bridal sedan was forced to stop, and the curtain was suddenly yanked open. Shen Jinglin wore a moon-white brocade robe, his hair disheveled, his face full of ferocity. He reached out to grab my wrist, but was blocked by the wedding attendant beside me. Young Master Shen, today is the joyous wedding day of Miss Su and General Shen. What are you doing? The wedding attendant was so anxious. She was sweating profusely. What General Shen Jinglin was stunned for a moment, then burst into wild laughter. Absurd. The one Su Qingyuan is supposed to marry is me. That Shen Jinglin is just a cripple paralyzed in a wheelchair, and he can't even perform his marital duties. Is she marrying him to remain a living widow for the rest of her life? Mother hurriedly stepped forward and pulled at my sleeve, her eyes red-rimmed. Qingyuan, how about we think of another way? I looked at the white hair at Mother's temples, a trace of guilt flashing through my heart these 7 years. The most tormented person besides me was Mother. She feared I wouldn't be able to marry, feared I would be ridiculed by others. The day the Shen family sent the betrothal gifts, she held me and cried the entire night, then personally embroidered my wedding dress for 3 months. Yet Shen Jinglin treated this hope as a bargaining chip in his wager. I gently patted Mother's hand, raised my eyes to look at Shen Jinglin, my voice cold as ice. Shen Jinglin looked clearly. The accompanying maid immediately stepped forward and unfolded the bright red marriage certificate. The writing on it was clearly legible, and the groom's position prominently bore the 3 characters. Shen Jinglin, you altered this marriage certificate with your own hands. I spoke slowly, each word striking Shen Jinglin's heart like a heavy hammer. Your bet with Ching Shu, your claim that even if I married Uncle, I would still be yours in the end. I heard all of it. Shen Jinglin's face instantly turned deathly pale, his eyes full of disbelief. You heard? Then why didn't you come to me to change it back? Would coming to you have been any use? I let out a cold laugh. These past 7 years, you've sabotaged my marriage prospects 9 times. The first time, the common people of Chang'an cursed you as heartless and disloyal. The second time, the nobles and aristocrats all assumed our bond had ended. Later on, everyone thought I was shameless, desperately clinging to you. Shen Jinglin, I'm tired. I don't want to waste any more time on you. I paused, my gaze sweeping over the onlooking crowd. My voice suddenly rose. Besides, Shen Jinglin is the great general who protects the nation. He once pacified the western regions for the Great Tang with illustrious military achievements. Even though his legs are now impaired, he is still 1,000 times, 10,000 times better than you, an idle good-for-nothing who treats marriage as a joke. Today, this marriage is happening. As soon as I finished speaking, voices of agreement rose from the crowd. Miss Su is right. Young Master Shen has indeed gone too far, treating a young lady's lifelong matter as a joke. General Shen was so mighty back in the day, if it weren't for defending our homeland, he wouldn't have ended up in such a state. Miss Su marrying him is a fine match. Shen Jinglin's face flushed red with embarrassment, her whole body trembling with anger. Fine, fine, Su Qingyuan. Since you insist on marrying, don't regret it. I withdrew my gaze and said to the wedding attendant, the auspicious hour has arrived. Lift the sedan chair. The bridal sedan was lifted again. The suona sounded once more, drowning out Shen Jinglin's furious roar. I leaned against the sedan wall and closed my eyes. The pent-up resentment of 7 years finally dissipated for the most part. The Shen residence's wedding banquet was set up in the Dan Pavilion of the back garden, filled with guests, all prominent figures of Chang'an. As soon as I stepped down from the sedan, I saw a man in a wheelchair looking toward me. He wore bright red wedding attire, his complexion somewhat pale. Yet it couldn't conceal his handsome features, deep-set eyes. A high nose bridge, thin lips pressed together, exuding an aloof coldness that kept others at bay. But when he looked at me, the coldness in his eyes dissipated somewhat, replaced by a touch of warmth. Miss Su, sorry to keep you waiting, he spoke. His voice deep and pleasant, like jade stones striking together. I slightly bent my knees in courtesy. General Shen. He raised his hand, and the attendant beside him immediately stepped forward to help me. I gently shook my head, walked to his side myself, and said softly, "Let me push you." He froze for a moment, then nodded. The wheelchair's wood was smooth, carrying a faint sandalwood scent. I pushed him toward the peony pavilion. My steps were slow and steady. He seemed to understand me well, afraid I'd feel awkward. He took the initiative to start a conversation. I've heard Miss Sue is skilled at painting peonies, a few days ago. I had people gather some fine Schwan paper and paints. If you're interested in the future, you can paint in the residence. Thank you for your thoughtfulness, General. My heart stirred slightly. I hadn't expected him to pay attention to such small matters. Now that you and I are husband and wife, there is no need to be so formal. He turned his head to look at me, sunlight falling on his face, softening his features. Just call me Jichuan, I called out softly, my cheeks warming slightly. The wedding banquet went smoothly. Guests came forward one after another to offer congratulations, their gazes toward us full of blessings. Only Shen Jinglin hid in a corner, her expression so gloomy it could drip water. Ching Shu stood beside her, constantly comforting her, but her eyes kept drifting toward me, thick with jealousy. I couldn't be bothered with them, focusing only on accompanying Shen Jichuan in entertaining guests. Though his legs were inconvenient, his presence was powerful. He handled guests with ease, his words fully displaying a great general's bearing. Standing beside him, I felt unexpectedly at peace. As night fell and the guests departed, I was escorted to the bridal chamber by the maids. The bridal chamber was decorated warmly and elegantly, with large red double happiness characters hanging on the walls. Nuptial wine cups placed on the table, and the air filled with a faint scent of osmanthus. Before long, Shen Jinglin was wheeled in by attendants, and the maids tactfully withdrew. Only the two of us remained in the room. He looked at me, his gaze gentle. You've had a hard day today. I walked to his side and straightened the collar of his wedding robe for him. It is you who must be tired, having dealt with so many guests. He grasped my hand. His palm was warm with a layer of calluses, likely from years of gripping weapons. With you here, I'm not tired. His gaze fell on my phoenix crown as he said softly, "Let me help you take it off." I nodded and lowered my head slightly. His fingers were slender, his movements gentle as he carefully untied the straps of the phoenix crown. The crown was heavy. The moment it was removed, I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He set the phoenix crown aside, his gaze settling on my face, eyes deep. "Qing Yuan, you're truly beautiful." My cheeks burned hotter, and I instinctively avoided his gaze. He chuckled softly, his voice carrying a hint of huskiness. "That day when I heard you agreed to marry me, I was very surprised and very happy. I know this has been unfair to you." "It is not unfair." I raised my head and looked at him earnestly. "Being able to marry you is my good fortune." A flash of delight crossed his eyes. Then he gripped my hand tightly. "Qing Yuan, rest assured. From now on, I will protect you completely and won't let you suffer the slightest grievance." My heart warmed, and I nodded. He raised his hand to gently caress my cheek, his movements as tender as if handling a rare treasure. "It is getting late. Rest now." I hummed in acknowledgement, letting him help me to the bedside. He then wheeled himself to sit by the bed. I looked at him, hesitated for a moment, but still asked, "The rumors outside say you're impotent. Is that true?" He froze for a moment, then laughed. "You believe those rumors?" I lowered my head somewhat embarrassedly. "I'm just curious." He reached out to pull me into his embrace, his chin resting on the top of my head, his voice low and suggestive. "Rumors can't be trusted, if you want to know. Why not verify it yourself?" Red candles flickered, gauze curtains hung softly, the temperature in the room gradually rising. That night he was extremely tender, letting me experience an intimacy and sense of security I'd never felt before. It wasn't until nearly dawn that I fell into a deep sleep in his embrace. When I woke the next day, the sun was already high in the sky. I opened my eyes and saw Shen Jinglin looking at me tenderly, sunlight streaming through the window lattice onto his face, outlining his handsome features. "You're awake." He raised his hand to gently caress my forehead. "You must be exhausted from last night. I've already told Mother there is no need to serve tea today. Rest a bit more." I nodded, snuggling closer into his embrace, my voice carrying the lazy tone of just waking up. "Jichuan, can your legs really be cured?" He paused for a moment, then said, The head physician at the Imperial Medical Academy says that as long as I persist with treatment, there is still hope I can stand again. In the past, I felt it didn't matter whether I could stand or not. But now he lowered his head and kissed the top of my head. I want to stand up. I want to personally protect you, want to take you to see the blooming flowers of Chang'an, to tour the emerald waves of Kujiang. My heart was filled with emotion. I raised my hand to embrace his waist. I'll accompany you through the treatment. No matter how long it takes, I'll wait for you. He held me tightly, his voice so tender it could drip water. After finishing washing up, I had just walked out of the bridal chamber when I saw Ching Shu kneeling at the door. She was wearing plain-colored dress, her face pale, hair disheveled, looking particularly wretched. I understood in my heart she was here to play pitiful. "Miss Su, please save young Master Jinglin." Seeing me come out, she immediately crawled forward several steps, grabbed the hem of my skirt, and cried like rain on pear blossoms. After yesterday's wedding banquet ended, young Master Jinglin drank all night. He mistook me for you, held me and cried all night, saying he regretted it, saying he shouldn't have pushed you away. While crying, Ching Shu intentionally or unintentionally pulled open her collar, revealing the ambiguous red marks on her neck. I looked down at her, my eyes cold. "Ching Shu, are you showing off to me?" She froze for a moment, her crying abruptly stopped, a trace of panic flashing in her eyes. "Miss Su, that is not what I meant. That is not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" I interrupted her, my tone mocking. "You followed Shen Jinglin for so long, isn't it just to replace my position? Now that you've gotten what you wished for, why are you here playing pitiful in front of me?" I didn't. Ching Shu hurriedly shook her head. "I only feel grateful toward young Master Jinglin, absolutely no other intentions. Miss Su, please return to young Master Jinglin's side. He really loves you deeply. Love me." I laughed, my laughter full of disdain. "I can't afford his love, Ching Shu. Since you feel so sorry for him, just stay by his side and don't bother me." Also, I paused. My gaze fell on the red marks on her neck. "Even if you can stay by his side, remember your status. You're just a maid. If I see you at the Shen residence in the future and you don't know the rules, I definitely won't let you off easily." After speaking, I gently lifted my foot, broke free from his grip, turned around and was about to leave. "Su Qingyuan," Shen Jinglin's voice suddenly came through, carrying thick anger. I turned back to look, only to see him striding over quickly. His face gloomy, his eyes staring fixedly at me. When he saw the red marks on my neck, his eyes instantly turned blood red, like an out-of-control wild beast. "You actually really did it with him," he said through gritted teeth, his voice trembling. "Su Qingyuan, you really have no shame." I looked at him coldly. "Shen Jinglin, watch your words. I'm your aunt. If you disrespect me, you disrespect the Shen family." "Aunt," he laughed wildly, his laughter shrill. "You're worthy of that. If it weren't for you insisting on marrying back then, how would you have fallen to this state? Su Qingyuan, I'm telling you, I regret it. I want you back by my side too late." I said indifferently, "Spilled water can't be gathered. The marriage is done, the ceremony complete. I'm already Shen Jingling's wife, and that will never change for the rest of this life. I won't allow it." He stepped forward, trying to grab my wrist. "How dare you?" Shen Jingling's voice suddenly rang out, carrying an unquestionable authority. Shen Jinglin's movement halted, and he turned to look back, only to see Shen Jinglin sitting in a wheelchair, being pushed over by a servant. His face was icy cold, his gaze sharp as a blade, staring fixedly at Shen Jinglin. Uncle Shen Jinglin's imposing manner instantly weakened, his eyes showing a hint of fear. Shen Jinglin let out a cold snort. "Shen Jinglin, do you know your crime? Qingyuan is your aunt, yet you dare to be disrespectful to her and even say such outrageous words." Shen Jinglin opened his mouth but couldn't utter a single word of defense. And you, Shen Jingling's gaze turned to Ching Shu, his tone icy cold, a lowly servant girl. Yet you dare to run wild in the Shen residence, and even attempt to sow discord. What punishment do you deserve? Lu Qingshu was so frightened that her whole body trembled. She immediately knelt and prostrated on the ground. "General, spare my life. This servant will never dare again." Shen Jichuan couldn't be bothered to look at her and said to the attendants, "Drag him down and give him 20 strokes of the rod. Throw him in the woodshed, and without my orders, he is not allowed to come out." The attendants immediately stepped forward, grabbed Lu Qingshu, and left. Lu Qingshu was so frightened she cried loudly, continuously begging Shen Jinglin for help. But Shen Jinglin didn't dare say another word. Having dealt with Lu Qingshu, Shen Jichuan's gaze fell back on Shen Jinglin. "Do you know your mistake?" Shen Jinglin bit his teeth, but still lowered his head. "I know my mistake." "Good that you know your mistake," Shen Jichuan said indifferently. "I'll let you off for today's matter. But if there is a next time, don't blame me for not showing mercy." "Get lost." Shen Jinglin glared at me fiercely, then turned and left in anger. Watching his departing figure, I sneered inwardly. "Shen Jinglin, this is just the beginning. What you owe me, I'll collect back bit by bit." In the following days, while I accompanied Shen Jichuan in treating his leg ailment, I secretly laid plans to take revenge on Shen Jinglin and Lu Qingshu. Shen Jichuan's treatment went smoothly. The director of the Imperial Medical Academy personally came to treat him, saying his leg was recovering well, and in less than half a year he'd be able to walk with a crutch. In another year, he'd be able to stand like a normal person. Hearing this, I was overjoyed. And Shen Jinglin had been sulking ever since being scolded by Shen Jichuan that day. After Lu Qingshu was thrown into the woodshed, he tried several times to plead for her, but was stopped by old Madame Shen each time. Old Madame Shen had already been dissatisfied with Lu Qingshu. Now, seeing that she dared to sow discord between Shen Jinglin and me, she was even more furious and ordered that no one was allowed to approach the woodshed. I knew the opportunity had come. On this day, I deliberately had someone send some food to Lu Qingshu in the woodshed, and then had someone intentionally mention Lu Qingshu's miserable state in front of Shen Jinglin. Shen Jinglin already felt guilty toward Lu Qingshu, and after hearing this, became even more anxious. That very night, he secretly snuck into the woodshed. I had already arranged for people to be stationed outside the woodshed, watching everything unfold. Early the next morning, I brought several attendants to the woodshed and happened upon Shen Jinglin and Lu Qingshu embracing each other with disheveled clothing. "Young Master Shen, Miss Lu, what are you two doing?" I asked with feigned surprise. Shen Jinglin and Lu Qingshu were frightened pale, hastily separating to straighten their clothes. We Shen Jinglin stammered, unable to speak a complete sentence. I let out a cold laugh and said to the attendants, "Take them to see old Madam." After old Madam Shen learned of this matter, she trembled with rage. She pointed at Shen Jinglin, unable to speak for a long time. You wretched creature, misfortune to the family, misfortune to the family." Shen Jinglin knelt on the ground, kowtowing incessantly. "Grandmother, your grandson knows he was wrong. Please spare Ching Shu, spare her." Old Madame Shen glared furiously at Lu Qingshu. "This vixen is the one who led you astray. Today I must beat her to death." Lu Qingshu was scared out of her wits and hurriedly knelt on the ground, begging for mercy. "Old Madam, spare my life. This servant will never dare again. It was young Master Jinglin who came to me first. It has nothing to do with me." "You still dare to make excuses?" Old Madame Shen was furious and grabbed the teacup from the table and threw it at her. The teacup hit Lu Qingshu's forehead, and blood immediately flowed out. I stood to the side, watching coldly. This wasn't enough. I wanted to see them utterly disgraced. "Old Madam," I spoke up, "if this matter gets out, it won't just ruin the Shen family's reputation. It will also affect young Master Jinglin's future. Why not give Miss Lu a proper status and let her become young Master Jinglin's concubine?" Shen Jinglin froze, then looked up at me, his eyes full of disbelief. You're willing to let her be my concubine?" "I'm thinking of the Shen family," I said indifferently. "Now that the deed is done, if we don't give her a proper status, people will only say the Shen family bullies others with their power and mistreats servants. Giving her a status will also shut people's mouths." Old Madame Shen hesitated for a moment, then finally nodded. Very well, we'll do as you say, but she is just a lowly maid. She can only be a Tongfang. She is not allowed to be elevated to concubine status. A Tongfang status was even lower than a concubine's, without even a proper title. Liu Qingshu's face instantly turned deathly pale, her eyes full of despair, but Shen Jinglin became anxious. Grandmother, no, Ching Shu can't be a Tongfang. I want to marry her as a concubine, and as a noble concubine at that. Have you lost your mind? Old Madame Shen was furious. How can a maid be worthy of being a noble concubine? If you dare marry her as a noble concubine, I'll break your legs. Even if you break my legs, I still want to marry her. Shen Jinglin's attitude was resolute. This look is foreshadowing when he stares at the female lead's back. Has he already felt a vague sense of familiarity? What do you think is going through his mind right now? Is he finally seeing the white moonlight's true face, or is he starting to regret his choice back then? I was secretly delighted. Shen Jinglin, you're really too stupid. You think you're protecting Liu Qingshu. Little do you know you're personally destroying your own future with your own hands. In the end, old Madame Shen couldn't resist Shen Jinglin and could only agree to let Liu Qingshu become a noble concubine. After the news spread, the entire city of Chang'an was in an uproar. Everyone was mocking Shen Jinglin, saying he was passing up perfectly good noble ladies from prestigious families, insisting instead on marrying a maid as a noble concubine. It was simply like his brain had been flooded with water. Those aristocratic families that had originally intended to form marriage alliances with the Shen family all abandoned the idea. After all, no one wanted their daughter to marry a wastrel young master who treasured even a maid. Shen Jinglin's reputation plummeted, becoming the biggest laughingstock in Chang'an. Whenever he went out, he could always feel others' strange gazes and hear their gossip and finger-pointing. He was furious but helpless. And although Liu Qingshu became a noble concubine, she suffered endless cold treatment in the Shen manor. The servants in the household all looked down on her and targeted her at every turn. Old Madame Shen hated her to the bone and often found excuses to make things difficult for her. She had originally thought that becoming a noble concubine would allow her to reach the heavens in one step, but never expected that what awaited her would be such an outcome. Watching all this, I felt immensely satisfied. This was only the first step of my revenge. Next, I would make them pay an even more painful price. Days passed one by one, and Shen Jichuan's leg recovered better and better. He was already able to walk slowly with a cane. Every day he would accompany me on walks around the estate, telling me stories of his campaigns in the western regions back in the day. I would also accompany him as he practiced walking and wipe away his sweat. Our feelings for each other grew deeper and deeper. On this day, I suddenly felt nauseous and wanted to vomit. So the maidservant hurriedly went to fetch a physician. After taking my pulse, the physician smiled and said to us, "Congratulations, General." "Congratulations, Madam." "Madam is with child." Both Shen Jichuan and I were stunned. Then our hearts filled with joy. Shen Jichuan tightly grasped my hand, his voice trembling. "Qing Yuan, we're going to have a child." I leaned against his chest, my eyes slightly red. 7 years of waiting had finally brought us this happiness. The news that Shen Jichuan was going to have a child quickly spread throughout the entire Shen estate. Old Madame Shen was especially overjoyed and came to see me in person, bringing me many precious tonics. She even ordered all the servants in the estate to take good care of me. And after Shen Jinglin learned that I was pregnant, he became even more crazily jealous. He often stood in the distance secretly watching me, his eyes full of unwillingness and resentment. I couldn't be bothered with him and just focused on nurturing the baby. Shen Jichuan was even more attentive and caring towards me, doing almost everything himself. But Liu Qingshu refused to behave herself when she saw that I was pregnant and that Shen Jichuan and old Madame Shen doted on me in every way. She was consumed with jealousy. On this day, she specially made a bowl of fetus calming medicine and personally delivered it to my courtyard. "Madam, this is fetus calming medicine I specially made for you. Please drink it quickly." She wore a fake smile on her face. I looked at the medicine bowl she handed over, sneering inwardly. I had long anticipated that she wouldn't behave herself and had people watch her every move early on. I knew there must be something added to this bowl of medicine. Thank you for your trouble, Miss Liu. I didn't take the medicine bowl, but instead said to the maid beside me, take the medicine to the physician to examine it. If there is no problem, then I'll drink it. Liu Qingshu's expression changed instantly, a flash of panic crossing her eyes. Madam, I made this medicine with my own hands. There won't be any problem with it. Why go through all this trouble? Better safe than sorry. I said indifferently, the child in my belly is precious. There can't be the slightest mishap. The maid immediately took the medicine bowl and turned to leave. Liu Qingshu stood to the side, restless and uneasy. Before long the maid returned, her face grim as she said, Madam, the doctor says red flour was added to this medicine. It is poison to induce miscarriage. What? I stood up in feigned surprise. Liu Qingshu, how dare you? You actually dared to add red flour to my pregnancy stabilizing medicine. Liu Qingshu was so frightened her legs went weak, and she fell to her knees. Madam, it wasn't me. I didn't add red flour. Someone is framing me. If not you, then who? I looked at her coldly. You made this medicine with your own hands, and you delivered it with your own hands. Besides you, who else would do such a thing? It really wasn't me. Liu Qingshu cried pitifully, Madam, I beg you to believe me. I said to the attendants, take her away and hand her over to the old madam for punishment. When old Madam Shen learned of this, she was so angry she nearly fainted. She immediately ordered Liu Qingshu to be locked in the woodshed and severely tortured. Unable to withstand the torture, Liu Qingshu eventually confessed to her crime. She said it was because she was jealous that I was pregnant with a child. She wanted to make me miscarry so that Shen Jinglin's heart would return to her. Old Madam Shen was furious beyond measure and immediately ordered Liu Qingshu to be beaten to death with rods. After Shen Jinglin learned of Liu Qingshu's death, he was heartbroken and devastated. He ran to the woodshed, looked at Liu Qingshu's cold corpse, and cried his heart out. He blamed everything on me, believing that I was the one who killed Liu Qingshu. He rushed into my courtyard, wanting to attack me. But just as he got close to me, he was stopped by Shen Jinglin. Shen Jinglin, what do you think you're doing? Shen Jinglin's eyes were icy cold, his tone imposing. He is the one who killed Ching Shu. I want to avenge Ching Shu. Shen Jinglin's eyes were red, like a mad dog. Liu Qingshu got what she deserved, Shen Jinglin said coldly. She dared to plot against my child. Her death is not worth pitying. If you dare to act wild here again, don't blame me for being rude to you. Shen Jinglin was now able to stand, and although he still couldn't walk like a normal person, his aura was even more powerful than before. Under his Wei-Ya, Shen Jinglin didn't dare take another step forward. Fine, 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 Shen Jinglin pointed at us, his anger turning to laughter. You just wait, I won't let you off. With that, he turned and left. I knew Shen Jinglin wouldn't let this go, but I wasn't afraid. With Shen Jinglin by my side, he couldn't hurt me in the slightest. After Liu Qingshu's death, Shen Jinglin became even more decadent. He drank heavily all day, doing nothing productive, making himself look neither human nor ghost. Old Madam Shen watched him, heartbroken yet helpless. But there was nothing she could do to get him to pull himself together. Old Madam Shen began arranging blind dates for him, but those noble ladies from prestigious families all refused one after another when they heard they'd have to marry Shen Jinglin. After all, no one wanted to marry a notorious playboy who had caused the death of his own concubine. Finally, a sixth-rank official was willing to marry his daughter to Shen Jinglin, but that girl was simple-minded. After the news got out, people in Chang'an City made Shen Jinglin an even bigger laughingstock. After Shen Jinglin learned of this, he completely broke down. He felt he had suffered utter humiliation and could no longer show his face in Chang'an. He packed his luggage and decided to go to the frontier to join the army, wanting to achieve merit on the battlefield and wash away his disgrace. When the Shen family saw him off, I didn't go. I was in the courtyard, slowly taking a walk with Shen Jinglin by my side. The maidservant Xiao Tao said softly, Madam, young Master Shen has left. Do you think he can achieve merit at the frontier this time? I smiled slightly. Whether he can achieve merit or not has nothing to do with me. What he owed me has already been repaid in full. Shen Jichuan held my hand and said gently, Qing Yuan, let the past be the past. Let's live our lives well from now on and stop thinking about those unhappy things. I nodded and leaned into his embrace, my heart filled with peace. I thought that once Shen Jinglin went to the border, we could live peacefully, but unexpectedly, half a month later, news of his death came. It is said that he offended a general at the border and was poisoned to death by people sent by that general, and that general turned out to be Lu Qingshu's ex-husband. It turns out Lu Qingshu wasn't some orphan girl at all. She had long been married to that general, but later, out of greed for wealth and status, she falsely claimed to be an orphan and was brought back to the manor by Shen Jinglin. That general had never been able to forget Lu Qingshu, and when he learned that Lu Qingshu had been killed by Shen Jinglin, he found a way to take revenge on Shen Jinglin and ultimately poisoned him to death. After the news came back, old Madame Shen was grief-stricken and fell ill, never to recover. Shen Jinglin's reputation became even more unbearable. The Shen family didn't even transport his remains back to Chang'an, but simply found a place at the border and buried him wrapped in a straw mat. When Xiao Tao told me about this, I was making little clothes for the child in my belly. I just smiled faintly after hearing it and said nothing. Shen Jinglin's ending was his own doing. If he hadn't been heartless and unloving, if he hadn't treated marriage as a joke, if he hadn't doted on her, Lu Qingshu wouldn't have ended up like this either. A few months later, I successfully gave birth to a son. Shen Jichuan held the child and smiled from ear to ear, and old Madame Shen's heartache was mostly cured by the birth of this child. Shen Jichuan's leg also completely healed. He put on his armor again and returned to the military camp. The emperor valued him highly, bestowing upon him the title of Grand General who protects the nation, and had him command the imperial guards to defend Chang'an. I became the envied wife of the Grand General, and my position in the Shen household became increasingly secure. Shen Jichuan and I supported each other through thick and thin, and our feelings grew deeper. Our son was also clever and bright, much loved by the Shen family. The sun was just right that day, and I was playing with my son in the courtyard. Shen Jichuan came back after handling official business. He walked over to us, gently picked up our son, and kissed him on the face. Qing Yuan. He looked at me, his eyes tender. It is so good to have you and the child here. I smiled and leaned against him. Yes, with you here, I feel very happy too. The sunlight fell upon us, warm and pleasant. I know that I've finally broken free from the shadows of the past and welcomed my own happiness. Those who once hurt me have all received their due punishment, and I will live well together with Shen Jichuan, raising our child, making our days ahead more and more wonderful. The flowers of Chang'an still bloom brilliantly. The blue waves of Kujiang still ripple, and I am no longer that old maid who waited for 10 years and was mocked by others, but the person dearest to Shen Jichuan's heart, the happiest general's wife in Chang'an City. Occasionally, I still think of Shen Jinglin and Lu Qingshu, but there is no longer any hatred in my heart, only relief. Their ending was what they themselves chose, and my happiness is also what I fought for myself. For the rest of our lives, in peaceful times, relying on each other, this is the best ending I could wish for. Days passed one by one, our son gradually grew up, and Shen Jichuan often took him to the military camp, teaching him horseback riding and archery, hoping he would become a great general protecting the country like himself. Meanwhile, I taught him reading and writing at home, hoping he would become a learned and responsible person. In Chang'an City, no one mentioned my past experiences anymore, and no one mocked Shen Jinglin's disgrace. Those past grievances and grudges gradually dissipated in the wind with the passage of time. I know that the most beautiful thing in this world is not taking revenge on those who hurt you, but letting go of the past and cherishing the happiness before your eyes. I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I met Shen Jichuan. He made me understand that love can be so beautiful, that marriage can be so blissful. It is the peony blooming season again. Shen Jichuan took me and our son boating on Kujiang Pool. On the boat, our son laughed happily. Shen Jichuan looked at me tenderly, The breeze swept by, carrying the fresh fragrance of peonies and the scent of happiness. I leaned against Shen Jinglin embrace, looking at the beautiful scenery before me, my heart filled with peace. I know my happiness will continue like this until the end of time. Don't exhaust your true heart on people who aren't worth it. Huo Shoyan's favoritism toward Duruoxia is a filter like blindness. Wei Yan's 7 years of devotion can't compare to a few tears from the white moonlight. Save your true heart for those who know how to cherish it. Blindly accommodating won't bring equal respect. It'll only leave you covered in wounds.